All right, we're going to work on chapter 13.1, mechanical project one, plate. What we're supposed to use is line, offset, circle, trim, fillet, chamfer. It tells me some helpful hints in the book. It tells me all the measurements it needs to be. It gives me an example of what the project should look like. As far as, how am I supposed to tackle a project like this? Where should I start? How should I begin? What should I draw first? You kind of have to, every project's a little different. Every circumstance, like depending on the environment, what you're supposed to draw on is different. Depending on what measurements is giving to you in the same drawing, is going to cause you to draw it a different way. So even if I had, the plate that's in the book, and I had an identical plate that was drawn by somebody else, and they put different dimensions with different ratios and different respects, the way I would draw one plate versus the other plate would be completely different. So when looking at this plate here, like what should I draw first? I definitely want to draw the outside of my plate first and then work my way in. And the reason why I want to do that is because if I look at the holes that would accept the bolts in the plate, those holes are with respect to the perimeter and the edges of the outside of my plate. So I can't place those holes until I know where the perimeter of my plate is at. So you kind of have to break the project down in that respect before you kind of move forward. Also, looking at the curves, like the rounded edges in the top right and bottom right corner, or looking at the diagonal cut through the edge of the plate. I could technically draw them all at once with that fashion, but it's a lot easier to just draw a rectangle first and then use like the chamfer and fillet command to kind of finish the edges off. And that would be my recommendation for that. So, all right. So to do this, hold up the line command, and I'm going to start by drawing my rectangle. And in fact, I'll use the rectangle command to do this. I could just use the line, but I'm going to just pick the bottom left corner. And as I draw out, um, I'll hit dimensions. The length is going to be your X. So the length is going to be 15, hit enter. And then the width is going to be your Y axis. In this case of the plate, it'd be 8 inches. I hit 8, enter. And then you have to pick the location where you want the rectangle to be. So as I draw it around, it kind of pushes it in all the four corners of my area here. So I'll put it in the top right corner here and place it, and that's my rectangle now. Okay. Now that I have that drawn, I'm going to go and I'm going to put the fillets in. So the fillet command is right here. I'll select that. Go down to my command line. I'm going to choose multiple because I'm going to have to put two fillets in, one at the top right, one at the bottom right. I'm then going to choose radius because the measurement that it gives me is 1 radius. Okay, the radius is 1, so I'll choose radius. Then it's going to ask me, what is the radius? Right now it's set to 0, so I'm going to type in there and hit 1, hit enter. And now I go up here, I'll select one edge, and as I put my mouse over to the other side, before I even click it, it gives me a preview like, hey, what's my fillet going to look like? And if that's what I want it to look like, I'll left click and finish that command. It still has me in the fillet command because remember I chose multiple before I actually did anything. So it's still going to keep you active. And now I'll hit one side, hit the other side, and now I got both fillets. Now that I have both fillets completed, I'll hit enter and finish the fillet command. Now next I got to do the chamfer. Chamfer is this kind of like a dash or cut through the edge, a straight line. So the chamfer is also within the same command as fillet. Just hit that little drop down key, select chamfer, and just like the fillet, I'm going to choose multiple here first. And given the dimensions that it gives me in the book for how those chamfers should be made, it's given me the dimensions both, in the X direction and the Y direction. So given that those are the measurements that are given to me, I'm going to choose distance. It's going to say, hey, what's the distance of the first chamfer? It's 1. Hit enter. What's the distance of the second chamfer? It's also 1. Hit enter. And now you go up and you select your lines. So I'll select the top, and I'll select the left side. It gives me a preview of what it should look like. I like it. I'll click it. Notice it still keeps me active in the chamfer. This time I'll select the vertical line and the horizontal. It doesn't matter which one you choose first. Select it, and now I finish my chamfers. I'll hit enter to finish the command. Next, what I'll draw is the line kind of going straight across. this line here, as far as like, what should this look like? If you kind of think of the plate as a piece of sheet metal, this would be like the blank piece that would be stamped out of the sheet metal, what it would look like. The line that I'm going to draw right here, going from one side to the other, that line would kind of represent the bending line. So if you were to put it in a separate machine, that would bend the piece and kind of form like a 90-degree bracket. Kind of, it's like a reference line. You can kind of think of it as. Do the line command again, draw from left side to the right side, hit enter to finish it. So that takes care of the outside. Now I have, let's do this thing on the right side. So it looks like it's stamped out like a half a circle. It tells me that the center of that circle should be 4 inches or whatever the units are down vertically from the top. Well, if I know the total width from this side to that side's 8, and it's telling me to place it 4 down, that means it's going to be exactly in the middle. So making sure that my midpoint object snap is turned on, which it is, I'm going to go over here and select the circle. I'm going to make sure I choose the radius one because it's giving me the radius. I'm then going to come down here right where that triangle is at. That basically means midpoint. So once it says midpoint, I can left click, start the circle, and I'm going to physically type 2 for the radius, hit enter, and now there's my circle. To do a cutout, I'm doing it like this. This is the easiest way to do it. And with all objects and all shapes, and as we get deeper into the projects with chapter 13, you'll notice this, there's a lot of objects that are drawn that doesn't have like a geometric shape to it. But if you break it down into its parts, individual pieces, everything's drawn with a line, everything's drawn with a circle or an arc. Everything's drawn basically with lines and circles. And how you cut them and how you shape them and how you have them interconnected will give you all those various shapes. So I'm just using that idea to do like a punch out. So I just draw a circle here. And now that I have that in there, I'm going to use a trim command. I'm going to select everything. So I can just do a green selection window, crossing window here. Hit enter. And then I'm just going to delete the inner part of that, delete the outside part, hit enter. And now I just finished that outside edge. Next, I got to put the cutouts for the bolts to receive that location. Looking at the dimensions, I think the best way to draw that would be, I could draw it all as one, but not necessarily the best way to do it, or the easiest way to do it. I'm going to draw 2 circles, one at either end, because it's giving me the location of where the center of that circle should be, and then do 2 horizontal lines, one on top of one another, and then basically trim away the inside circles to receive that pattern. All right, so I'm going to make sure I choose the center radius command. I'm going to let my mouse kind of hover on there until it selects endpoint. I'm going to drag my mouse to the right. Once I do that, I'm going to hold the control button, right click. I'm going to select temporary track point. And now I'm going to hit 2, hit enter. And what it does is it creates a little plus symbol there, which is a tracking point, 2 inches to the right from that outside corner. Now I can put my mouse vertically here. Now I have a vertical tracking line here. And now I can hit 1.5, enter. And now I know that that piece of the center of that circle is 2 inches to the right and 1.5 inches down vertically. And I'll type the radius as 1.5, hit enter, and something. Oh, I hit the wrong radius. My mistake. So it should be 0.5, not 1.5. I was looking at the different measurement. So I'll use this location here, make sure they're concentric, hit 0.5, hit enter, and I'll delete that. There we go. Now that I have that, I'm going to draw another circle, but instead of using the circle command, I'm going to use the copy command. Since I already have one drawn here, I'm going to hit copy, select that circle, hit enter. I want the base point to be the center of my circle. And I'm going to drag it to the right and physically enter 2, hit enter, and it placed a copy of it 2 inches to the right. I'll hit right click and finish the command. All right, I'm going to draw the 2 horizontal lines 2 different ways. Either way is perfectly fine for both. I just want to show you 2 different ways of doing it. I'm going to make sure in terms of my object snaps that quadrants turn on, which right here it is. I'm going to go up here to my line, and right here where it forms a little diamond, if I zoom in here, where that little diamond's forming at, I let my mouse kind of hover there, it says quadrant. So I'll click it. That's the very top portion of my circle. And I'll drag it to this quadrant, select it, hit enter to finish the command. I know that those two are touching at the quadrant locations, which is the top. That's one way of doing it. That only works if the line is going to be perfectly horizontal or perfectly vertical with respect to the curve, which in this case it is. Next one I'm going to show you using the line command. I'm going to come down here and physically type tan for tangent, hit enter. And now I'll just hit the edge. It doesn't really matter where it's at. I'll hit it. And now as I move my cursor, that line is always tangent to that circle. And now I'm going to come down here to my command line, type tan again, hit enter. And then I'm going to select this other circle, hit enter. And now I know that this line is tangent to this circle and this line is tangent to that circle. The top one, I use quadrants. That only works if it's completely vertical or completely horizontal. The way I showed you using tan for either side, using it in the command line, will work for any circumstance, whether it's at some angle, vertical, horizontal, doesn't matter. So either one will be fine. Now that I have this drawn, I'll use a trim command. I'll select everything, hit enter, and I'm going to remove away the inner portions of that. And now I have the hole to receive my bolt for the plate. Hit enter to finish the command. So I'm going to zoom out. So now that I have that drawn perfectly the way it is, I could redraw it again, but that's a lot of extra work, not necessary. Since I already have it made, I'm going to use the copy command to do this. I'm going to select that object, hit enter. The base point I'm going to have to be the center of that left circle. I'll select it. And now I can place it. I'm going to place it down. The blueprints tell me 3 inches down. I'll hit 3, enter, and I'll right click to finish the command. And now I just finished Mechanical Project 1 plate for chapter 13.1.